Greetings everyone and welcome to today's webinar where we will discuss on current good manufacturing practices in food industry. As always, I'm delighted to have you all here with us. My name is Suzana Ayeti and I'm a Account Manager for AGC and the PCB's organizer for this session. This webinar will be presented by PCB Certified Trainer, who is also Senior Consultant, Trainer and Coach in Occupational Health and Safety, Mr. Raza Shah. Among many things Mr. Shah will cover: current good manufacturing practices requirements, a quality management system for medical devices required by Food and Drug Association, United States, and he also will talk about concepts to implementation. During the presentation, you will certainly have questions that you would like to get the answers to. So please feel free to write your questions and comments in the question box in the right-hand control panel, or you can use the raise hand function and we will unmute you. And you will have a chance to ask the questions directly to Mr. Shah. He will answer those questions accordingly at the end of the presentation. Also, if you are aware of a topic that you would like to discuss and participants would benefit from, please feel free to write down your suggestions in the survey at the end of the webinar. We are strongly committed to providing our audience with updated and useful information. Please, Mr. Shah, you may start the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Raza Shah from Pakistan. I have been working as a consultant, editor and trainer for quality management, environmental management, food safety management and medical devices for the last 17-18 years. Today our topic is the current good manufacturing practices in food industry. This is very popular and very well-known topic. It is applicable, the same current good manufacturing is applicable in the food, in the medicines and in the surgical instruments. Today we will focus on the food industry. So this basically, this good manufacturing practices is based on the very known concept of HACCP. It is hazard analysis and critical control point. You have to identify the hazards and then you have to control these hazards in a way that they do not disturb your supply chain and your food manufacturing practices. These hazards can destroy your food through persons, through machines or through material. So you have to first identify the hazards, then you have to develop how you will control and at which point you have to control these hazards. So this is basically a cycle, a continuous cycle, and it is based on the 7 elements. We will discuss these 7 elements in the coming slides. So as I have already told you that good manufacturing practices is based on the HACCP. So to understand the good manufacturing practices, we should be very familiar with the HACCP. So the HACCP was initially started in 1960 when the NASA asked Pillsbury to design and manufacture the first food for space flights. And now at the moment today it is very growing concern about the food safety from public health authorities and from the consumer and from the general public and from the government authorities. All are concerned and very conscious about the food safety management system. So we have to follow the HACCP plan to manage our supply chain in a way that no hazard will interfere during this food management system. And this HACCP system is not about a country. It is now popular around the world, and it is a globally recognized concept, especially in the food safety management system. What is HACCP? To understand HACCP, we must go through its definition. HACCP is a systematic preventive approach for food safety. It aims to prevent biological, chemical and physical hazards. Instead of relying on finished products inspections, HACCP is used in the food industry to identify potential food safety hazards. So the key action known as critical control point can be used to reduce the or eliminate the identified hazard. So in the food supply chain, you have to first identify the hazards, and you have to take the preventive action to eliminate these hazards, and you have to point out the points from where you can control or eliminate these hazards. These hazards can be through machines. These hazards can come to your food system through human beings and through materials. So you have to identify that these are the hazards, and these are the points from where these hazards can destroy your food quality. So you have to identify these points, and you have to introduce the control to prevent these hazards to that can affect your quality management system. So first, if you see that first point is the identify potential food safety hazards. You have to identify the hazards which can negatively affect your food quality, and then you have to determine the control points, the points from where you have to control these hazards. Maybe if you are purchasing material and introducing in your manufacturing process, you have to introduce some check to control these hazards at this point, or maybe it can be the people who are in the manufacturing process of the food, and they can be a cause of the hazard, and you have to introduce a control to eliminate these hazards, that no hazard can become in your system through these people. If we talk about the HACCP plan, we must be familiar with the good manufacturing practices and standard operating procedure. Good manufacturing practices is the all the practices which can eliminate the hazard or make our food management system safe from any hazard. And for this, we develop some specific SOPs, and these are called the standard operating procedures. So, like other quality management system, this system is also based on some SOPs. What is SOP? As you are familiar with the other quality management system, SOP is similar, is what you say, what you do, and do what you say. It's like ISO 9000. What you do, you have to write it that we are doing, and then you have to practice it, and if you have to prove it, you can prove it that we are doing this. So like other quality management system, the SOPs are the same in GMP or HACCP. What are critical control points? As I have mentioned that you have to control the hazard at some appropriate points. So these points are called critical control point. A critical control point is a key step where hazards can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to an acceptable level. Sometimes you cannot totally eliminate or abolish a hazard, but you can reduce it by some way in an acceptable level. So this is the point from where you can prevent, eliminate, or reduce the hazard at an acceptable level. The HACCP is based on the 7 principles, and the first one is the identify hazard. You have to identify that these hazards can negatively affect the quality management system of your food, and then you have to determine the critical control points, that these are the points from where the hazards are may come into your food safety management system. And then you have to establish the critical limits. You have to define the limits under which the hazard is acceptable, or beyond this limit the hazard or the is not acceptable. And then establishing monitoring procedure. You have to develop a monitoring procedure to monitor the limits of these hazards. Either they are going beyond to the acceptable limit, or either they are within the acceptable limits. And then you have to establish the corrective action procedure. If the limits, if the operations are going beyond to the acceptable limit, you have to take the corrective action. And for this, you have to develop a specific procedure. It is the same like the other quality management system, and you are familiar with the corrective action procedure. And then establish verification procedure, that after taking the corrective action, the hazard has been controlled or reduced to the acceptable limit. And then finally, you have to keep the record of each and every operation, that what was the readings before introducing the corrective action, and what are the reading after introducing the corrective action. So this is the main contents or steps, or you can say the principle of the HACCP plan. And before implementation or developing the HACCP plan, there are some prerequisites. And first prerequisite is the premises. You have to ensure that the premises where your operations are under process, it should be clear and should not be contaminated by any mean. The mean can be the material, man or machinery, and the water also. And the second issue is the transportation and receiving and storage. The material, when you transport your material and you receive in your plant and store, you have to ensure that during all these stages there should not be any contamination, or there not be any hazard which can destroy or disturb your food management system. And next is the equipment design, installation and maintenance. Sometime the machinery can or equipment can be a source of contamination or hazards. So when you are purchasing or designing the equipment for your processing, you have to ensure that it should not be a cause of contamination, or it should not be a cause of hazard. And you have to maintain your machine in a way that it should not disturb your food safety management system. Sometime during the maintenance, if you don't care of this element, sometimes the maintenance procedure or process can contaminate your food safety management. So you have to be very careful about the equipments and their installation and their maintenance. And the very important point is the personal training. The people who are taking care of the processing or looking or involved in the processing of your food safety system, they should be very trained about their personal hygiene, about hazards, and about the critical control points. and they should be well trained about all the good manufacturing practices and quality management system. The next is the sanitation and pest control. The where you are making the processing of the food, it should be very clean, and there should not any chances of pest or rodent by doors or by windows or by any other opening. So you have to ensure that where you are making the processing of the food, there should be a properly rodent and pest control well implemented. And the other issue is the recall. If there is something happen bad, then you have to a proper system of recall, and you have to say a process and procedure that this had happened bad, and you can recall these all products, even they are anywhere in your supply chain. So if you are reported or you notice that something happened bad or some non-conformity has occurred, and you noted after the goods has been dispatched, then you have to a proper system to recall and call these all the products which have been dispatched back. So, and if we see the good manufacturing practice, using the good manufacturing practice, you can control many of the potential hazards in a processing plant by using a standard set of principles and hygiene practices for the manufacturing and handling of food. These standard principles and practices are called good manufacturing practices. So as we have talked about the SOPs and HACCP, these are basically the good manufacturing practices which we can apply to eliminate or reduce any hazards during our manufacturing processes of the food. GMP is basically the preventive measure to ensure food safety. It is a system, or it is a way to avoid any non-conformance or any contamination in your food management system. And this GMPs are developed on the experience of a long period of time. And the foundation of this GMPs are based on HACCP program, and we have already discussed the HACCP. So it is the GMP is based on the HACCP program, and it has been developed after a long period of experience, and it is basically a preventive approach. It gives us a chance to avoid any non-conformance. And the next approach we use as a GMP, this is the standard operating procedure, SOPs. And as you know, like other quality management system, SOP is basically the describe the purpose and frequency of doing a task, and it fixed the responsibility who will do the task, and it describes the procedure that how this task will be performed, a description of procedure will be performed, and what documentation and paperwork will be involved during this procedure. And it describes the method by which you show that task is satisfactorily completed, and the corrective action to be taken of the task is performed incorrectly. And if there is some sort of deviation, you can take the corrective action to eliminate this deviation. So SOP is basically a detail about what, when, where, how the things will be done. So if you will develop a SOP for any activity. It will provide you the standardization, and everybody in your organization will follow the same SOP. And if somebody will not follow, it means this person is deviating from the your quality management system. The other concept is the corrective action request. And corrective action request, if as I have discussed in the previous slide, if there is any deviation from the SOP, you should take a corrective action, and you must have a corrective action form. What happened, when happened, where happened, and you have to note all this information in this corrective action form. And to fulfill this form, you have to develop the corrective action instructions, which will guide you how this form will be filled. And this form or corrective action request form should mention the state of the deviation, and you have to give the objective evidence that where happened and what happened, and why it is the deviation. You have to give the comparison that what has happened and what your SOP is saying, or what the standard is saying, or what the good manufacturing practices required. And this is a deviation because it is not fulfilling the requirement of the procedure or the standard or the good manufacturing practices. And you have to develop, if there is some non-conformance, you have to develop the plan for the to avoid the reoccurrence of this procedure or this deviation. And this is called the preventive action. Develop an action plan to prevent deviation reoccurrence. And when you develop any corrective or preventive action, you have to set the deadline that we will take this corrective or preventive action up to this date. And when you have implemented the corrective or preventive action, you should verify that this plan has been implemented, or this corrective or preventive action should have been implemented. So corrective and preventive action are very important to maintain your system and to avoid any recurrence or to correct your system. You have to take care of some issues, and this is the prerequisites program. And the first thing is the premises. And premises, the very important thing is the exterior of the building, the surrounding where your plant is working, or where your operations of the food management system is under practice. And if the environment, the external environment is very bad, then it will definitely affect your quality management system in an adverse way. So when you are going to select the site of your plant, you should be careful about the external environment. And the other is the building interior, the design, the construction, the lighting, the ventilation, the waste disposal, and inhabitable areas. Because when you are going to set or arrange your operation for the food management system, you have to be more conscious. The color you are selecting, the design you are selecting, the material of the construction you are selecting, the lighting you are selecting, the ventilation arrangement you are selecting, the waste disposal arrangement you are managing. They should be all should be comply with the requirement of the food industry, because if we talk about the lighting, in any industry, lights can be open, but when you are installing lights in the food plants, they should be covered. And the same way, the ventilation. For in another industry, the ventilation arrangement they can be open, but for the food management system, the ventilation arrangement should be in the way that no flies or insects can come or go through this ventilation. And throughout all the interior designing, you have to bear in mind that nothing you will be used which can destroy or damage your food quality. And sanitation facility is also very important. You have to ensure that the employees and the equipment and the sanitation facility should be proper. The persons should use in the way that no contamination can affect your food quality. And if you are using the water or ice in your manufacturing process, you have to ensure that there should not be any contamination through this water or ice. So you have to prepare a proper monitoring procedure, and you have to ensure that this procedure is well implemented, and you will check the implementation of this procedure through your internal audit. Receiving is also very important, because if you are not taking care at the receiving, there may be some contaminated material which can come in to your supply in your processing system, and it can damage your food quality. So the food carriers, temperature control, approved supplier, you have to all have to control all these things. Maybe the food is the good, but if you during the transportation or receiving, if you are not taking care of the temperature, it can destroy the quality of the food. And the same is for the storage. The finished products and chemical storage, if it is not in the proper way, it may be damaged, or it may be contaminated. And transportation is also important, because most of the time you have to ship your food items to other destinations, and during this transportation, if the food carriers are not taking care of handling and not taking care of the temperature control, then it can destroy your food quality. So you have to develop a proper SOP for the transportation, receiving, and storage, and you should monitor each shipment, and if there is some deviation, you should take the corrective action, and you should develop a proper supplier program, and you should purchase the material or services from only the approved suppliers. And in the same manner, you have to be very careful about the equipment you are using in your manufacturing plant. and the equipment should be designed in a way that will not bring any contamination in your food, and it should be installed properly, and the equipment should be properly maintained and should be calibrated. And so you have to develop a proper SOP for equipment maintenance, and temperature. You should also control a proper temperature for, especially for the food items, and you should maintain the temperature monitoring log, and you should use the thermometers for noting the temperature, and these thermometers should be well calibrated. So you have to develop a proper system of monitoring, and the monitoring should be through equipment which should be calibrated. And personnel who are in processing, involved in the manufacturing process of the food items, they should be well trained, and they should be trained about the hygiene and technical aspects. And you should ensure that the people who are involved in the manufacturing of our food items, they should be physically fit, and they are well aware about the hygiene. And so you have to develop the proper SOP for the personal control, and you have to develop the proper procedure for the employee sanitation. You have to train them how to wear the caps, how to wash the hands, how to go inside the manufacturing plant, and they should be well aware about all the protocols of going inside the processing area or going outside the processing area. So you have to train them about all this. And if there is some visitor, you should also maintain a proper procedure for visitors, and you have to maintain the visitor logbook, because the visitors can also be a source of contamination. So you have to properly maintain the sanitation, and you have to develop the SOPs for the pest control and sanitations, and you have to develop a proper checklist for all these prerequisites before starting any operations. And if the carriers are coming in your premises, like truck or other carriers, you have to develop a proper cleaning log for these trucks or carriers. And if there is something bad which you have noted after the shipment of the products, and then you have a proper recall system, and if there is any complaint, you must note this complaint, and these complaints, for these complaints you should maintain a complaint log. And for handling the complaints, you have a proper complaint handling procedure, and if there is any thing gone bad, you must issue a recall notice. And if some thing which is creating any type of disease, or which is creating any type of allergy, you must issue an allergy alert notice. till now what we have gone through, it is there are many practices. By applying these practices, we can maintain our food safety management system in a better way, and we can prevent the hazards which can destroy our quality management system. And we should also define the critical limits. The critical limits are the basically values that within these values these parameters are acceptable, and beyond these values these parameters are not acceptable. So you have to define the values for acceptability and non-acceptability. And these values can come from the government regulations or industrial norms, or some your own defined procedures. So you have to monitor your process, and if something is going beyond the critical value, you have to point out this, and you have to take the corrective and preventive action. These values can be in the form of temperature, and in a specific time, this may be pH value, this may be availability of water, this may be preservative, this may be availability of chlorine, or your sensory observations. Sometimes you feel that the noise level is very high, or some time you feel the smell is very alarming or disturbing. So in this way you have to define the critical limits. So these critical limits can be come through regulatory standard, or your own company standard, or through literature survey, or through experimental study, or through expert advices. So these values, maybe the government laws can define these critical limits, or your own company, or some literature, or some experimental studies. You have previous experience can define these limits, or someone who is expert in any process, he can define these critical limits. So these critical limits can be different from for different products. So each product has its own profile, and these limits will be different for different products. Maybe a certain temperature is good for one product, but the same temperature is not good for any other product. So you have to develop a process control sheet to describe the critical limits for different products. Same limits are not for every product. The limits, the critical limits will vary for different products. So you have to maintain the record for each product, for each lot, during processing and finish goods, and this record will help you to monitor and to take the decision in the future. Another good manufacturing practices verification process, and you have to ensure that all major process steps have been identified. When you are manufacturing any product, you have to define all the steps of this process, and you have to validate assumptions made regarding the movement of supplies and products, and you have to validate if there are any assumptions, and you have to work on the continual improvement. And if you are doing something good today, you should do it in a more better way in tomorrow. You can make your verification through your internal audit, and you should develop a proper template for internal audit, and you should another issue is the label review. If you are using label for your product, or you are labeling your product before finalizing the contents of the label, the different experts should review the contents of the label proper. So something not proper or something wrong should not be mentioned on your label. So this is a short overview of the good manufacturing practices. It's over.
Mr. Shah, thank you for this great presentation. We will go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions in the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. Okay, so the first question is, can you implement HACCP and ISO 22000 at the same time?
Yes, because HACCP, ISO 22000 is basically the combination of HACCP and ISO 9000. So if you are going to implement ISO 22000, HACCP is necessary.
Thank you. The next question is, what conditions should be in place for an organization to successfully implement an ISO 22000?
The main thing is their awareness about the standard, their requirements. If they are well aware about the requirements, they can implement it. They can implement in a better way, because the ISO 22000 is a generic standard. It is flexible. You can implement it in any food industry, but the main thing is your understanding about the requirement of the standard. If you can, if you are well aware about the requirements, you can tailor these requirements according to your organization.
Thank you. What is the best way to convince companies to implement any of the food standards?
The best way is the workforces. The regulatory requirements are pushing the companies to comply with the food safety management system, and the customers are more aware and more conscious about the food quality. And the third is the competitors. If you see that within a passage of time, the more companies are adopting the food safety management system. So if you want to remain in the business, you have to fulfill the regulatory requirements, you have to satisfy your customers, and you cannot be behind your competitors. So these are the pushing forces, and you have to fulfill, you can share these things with your management, and management then will realize that without implementation of food safety management system, we cannot survive.
Thank you. The next question is, according to your experience, what are the most common problems that a company may face during the implementation?
The main common problem is the HACCP team, because when we have to develop the HACCP plan, we require different experts from the different backgrounds, but normally the organization don't have all these experts. So maybe the persons who are doing actually in this organization, they are not well familiar with the standards. So the HACCP team is the main problem while we are implementing this system in the industry.
Thank you. What about the 19 key elements of GMP?
No, I'm not familiar with this.
Okay. The next question is, what is the procedure of using the pest control and what is the time gap of using it?
The pest control is the same way you do the other procedure. You have to fix the responsibility, you have to define the steps, and it depends upon the industry, the frequency of setting the frequency of anything. So for the different industries, you have to, maybe in some industry you have to monitor on the daily basis, and in other industry you have to monitor in quarterly basis or after 6 months.
Mr. Shah, I would like to thank you once again for this presentation. I would also like to thank all the attendees for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join us. We hope you enjoyed this webinar. We received all of your questions, and because the time is limited, we will answer to your questions individually by email. Also, don't forget to check PECB's webinar schedule on our website, pecb.com, or subscribe to our YouTube channel in case you missed any of our webinars. This Friday, we will talk about ways to manage risk at work. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye.